Clause 28 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, proposes to insert new articles, that is Article 151A, 151B, 151C, and 151D to provide for office of the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Your Honorable Speaker, and that the Prime Minister be appointed from among the elected members of the National Assembly. Further, Honorable Speaker, National Assembly shall have an opportunity to confirm the Prime Minister nominee, Honorable Speaker. However, this provision, Honorable Speaker, there is a provision that the second nominee for the position of the Prime Minister shall assume office if the National Assembly will not confirm his candidature. Honorable Speaker, this one to me, I think I didn't find it very well, because that means once the first nominee is not confirmed, and then the second nominee is not confirmed, the President has powers to appoint the Prime Minister to assume the office of the Prime Minister without reference to the National Assembly. To this, Honorable Speaker, to me does not appear a good provision, because the role of the National Assembly has been captured under Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya, and it could have been proper that whichever way the nominee is confirmed by Parliament. Clause 29 of the Constitution, Clause 29 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, proposes to amend Article 152 of the Constitution to provide for mixed cabinet with some members from amongst members of the National Assembly. The proposed amendment, read together with Clause 25, Honorable Speaker, seeks further to rename the office of the Cabinet Secretary to that cabinet to rename the Cabinet Secretary as the Cabinet Minister. Honorable Speaker, there is a very important aspect of all the things that really impressed me in the bill. This particular provision is a fantastic one. Honorable Speaker, I came with a bill proposing the same. It went through the first reading in December 2019, Honorable Speaker, in this House. And due to coronavirus, Honorable Speaker, it has not proceeded. But I'm happy that when the task force or the committee came to Nyamira, I appeared before the committee and I really submitted what they have captured here. And I'm very happy. This provision will go all a long way to make sure or to ensure that the cabinet ministers are appointed and they'll be members of this House. By so doing, Honorable Speaker, this House will not only be vibrant, but the members of Parliament of the National Assembly will have an opportunity for their issues to be raised and answered on the floor of the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Clause 32 and 33 seeks to amend Article 154 and 155 of the Constitution to remove requirement of vetting of the Secretary to the Cabinet, as well as the principal secretaries. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter that really needs great attention. Honorable Speaker, it's only yesterday that we were vetting the cabinet secretary, the principal secretary. And Honorable Speaker, you saw how the debate went. In my opinion, Honorable Speaker, it could be proper under Article 95 of the Constitution of Kenya that this House is given its role. And among the roles is to vet the principal secretaries as well as the secretary to the cabinet, among other officials or officers who are to occupy various offices in the government of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, while agreeing with some of these constitutional provisions or proposed amendments, I also came across some clauses, Honorable Speaker, which, to my opinion, were not well captured and which does not resonate well with me. Honorable Speaker, the first one is Clause 10 of the Constitution, which seeks to amend Articles 89 and 97 of the Constitution to provide for membership of the National Assembly to increase the number of members elected from constituencies from 290 to 260, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I find this proposal unconstitutional. Reason being, as my learned colleague Atienda Moro rightly put it, Honorable Speaker, some proposed constitutional amendments can be unconstitutional if they do not adhere to the process of the provisions of the constitutions provided. Honorable Speaker, on this particular issue, Article 89 of the Constitution of Kenya provides on how the limitation of boundaries can be done. For instance, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the schedule, how these positions or how these constituencies have been made, it does not really make sense, Honorable Speaker. If you look at the 2019 census vis-a-vis the proposed amendments, Honorable Speaker, you will find that in a county like Kwale, whose population is 866 people, 820, it has been given 3 record constituencies. Kisii County, whose population is 1,266,860, has not been given any constituency, Honorable Speaker. Further, Honorable Speaker, Kajiado, whose population is 1,117,840, has been proposed to get 3 constituencies. Honorable Speaker, Migori, where I saw somebody who said is a promoter come from yesterday, with a population of 1,116,436 people, no constituency. Homa Bay, with 1,131,950, no constituency has been given. So the criteria, Honorable Speaker, that was used to arrive at the creation of these constituencies, Honorable Speaker, is questionable. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I also have an issue with Article 41 of the Constitution of Kenya, which seeks to amend Article 168 of the Constitution to make provisions on removal of a judge from office to allow judiciary ombudsman to initiate a motion to remove a judge from office on account of complaints received from the people. Honorable Speaker, this provision in itself is archaic and unconstitutional. It's against the tenets and principles of natural justice, that is the right to fair hearing and also right to be heard. Honorable Speaker, I further submit that Article 10 of the Constitution, as far as the judiciary and the independence is concerned, falls under the eternity clause, which by practice is unamendable. Finally, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I could wish, Honorable Speaker, during your time, as you said yesterday, that the issues which were raised on point of order, you will make a ruling or you will deliver the way forward. I could also beseech you, Honorable Speaker, to point out or to make a ruling on the following issues, Honorable Speaker. 1, whether a proposed constitutional amendment can be declared unconstitutional for contravening the provisions of the Constitution. 2, whether the Constitution of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, contains
Honorable Kemosi, you know, please just organize yourself because 15 minutes is a long time. 1 minute, yes. And the staff, please, 1 minute. Light.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Second, whether the Constitution of Kenya contains basic structure of the Constitution, also known as eternity clauses, in simple words, an amendability of a certain clauses. Finally, If Chapter 10 of the Constitution, that is the judiciary and its independence, is protected by eternity clauses. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So, honourable members, again, just remind you, please, so that you don't have to keep asking for 1 extra minute. When you see the yellow light, you know you have 1 minute, 60 seconds. When the red one comes, you know you have 30 seconds. Don't rush when you see the yellow, but just know you have 1 minute. The next one on the list is the Honourable Wandai.
Thank you, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this chance to express myself on this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, we are indeed...
Members who are placing their requests on the intervention button, please don't go to the intervention button. Just go, because you know you are doing that, I know you are trying to shortchange the system. To pretend that you have you are intervening, no. Press the normal contribution button, because you have your chance to speak. Honorable Wandai, your minute is restored.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say from the outset that this is indeed a historic bill. As many of us have already pointed out, this is indeed the first time as a country that we are amending the Constitution through a popular initiative. It has never happened before, and it is happening now. Mr. Speaker, as we debate on this bill, we must not lose sight of the background. We must understand where we are coming from. Because I see from a number of submissions or speeches, people are forgetting where this country is coming from. Mr. Speaker, it was not something ordinary or something that can just be wished away. That on the 9th of March 2018, 2 persons, one of whom, of course, had rightfully been sworn in as president, and the other one whose victory, of course, he perceived or was perceived to have been subverted, willingly came together to shake hands to save the country. Mr. Speaker, that is not something to be taken lightly. It calls for utmost patriotism for such a thing to happen. And therefore, as we debate this bill, we must remember at all times where we are coming from as a country. Because I see us forgetting very easily. Mr. Speaker, I was honored to serve in the 11th Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that in that Parliament, we fought throughout. We fought throughout. If it was not fighting inside here, it was fighting in the streets and elsewhere. And we were fighting, some of us, because of lack of an opportunity for dialogue. Dialogue that would have enabled us to carry out these reforms that we are now able to carry out through this process of amending the Constitution under the BBI framework. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we must pay singular tribute to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. We have to. We owe it to them that we are in a position to debate in a conducive atmosphere so as to be able to change the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, constitutional making or changes are never easy things. Even if you are a student of history, you will agree with me that even the acclaimed First Amendment of the US Constitution never came easy. Never came easy. By the time it was being adopted, I think in December 1791, a lot of haggling, push and pull had happened. And therefore, the kind of pushback we are seeing in this process is not unusual, really. It is to be expected. But what do we do as a country? We need to focus on the future. Mr. Speaker, you know, personally, I cut my political teeth, if I may call it so, on the trenches. And I can tell you, not in some boardroom or such like place. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, it is not easy to get an opportunity such as the one we have currently, to be able to talk as a people, to chart the way forward for our country in the interest of the present generation and the generations to come. So as a parliament, we must seize this moment and provide the way forward for our people. Mr. Speaker, people have been talking about this document, the bill, the BBI bill. Whether it is perfect or not. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. There is no man-made thing that is ever 100% perfect. It's only God's creation which can be said to be perfect, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this Constitution, even as we amend it today, there will always be room to amend it again and again and again and again and again. Again, the other question is, does it incorporate everybody's wishes, interests, or feelings? The answer is no. Even me personally, there are things I would have wanted to be in this bill, but they aren't there. They aren't there. And I am sure there are other members here, many of us here, who would have wanted other things to be in this bill, but they are not there. So what do? Do we throw the baby with the bathwater? We can't. That would be irresponsible of us. So it behoves all of us to look at this bill as a first step in our way, in our journey to creating a nation that is cohesive, a nation that is at peace with itself. And again, Mr. Speaker, we must appreciate the fact that even the gains, the liberties, the democratic gains that we have attained in this country have always come incrementally. They never came overnight. So we get what we take what we get and we move on, hoping that there will be another time to secure others, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the most positive things that I can point out in this amendment bill, without necessarily belittling others, is the matter of the enhancement of allocation to our counties. Mr. Speaker, some of us who come from where we come do understand the problems of concentrating power and resources at the center. We understand very well. People have been saying and arguing that what makes it difficult for the current government under the current constitution to enhance the allocations to the counties beyond 15%, or say to 40%. That is an academic argument, Mr. Speaker. Why do I say so? We all know, and we are taught in elementary economics, that resources are always scarce. So when you have resources, you must prioritize. Mr. Speaker, and priorities change with circumstances. So what we are doing is that we don't want to leave this to the whims of whoever is in government to decide whether to make it 15, 20, or 30. We want to compel him or her through the Constitution that at the very least you must take 35% to the counties. It's only a blind person, as somebody who is not able to see clearly, that can for sure deny that some work has happened in the counties. We know there are problems. We know there are problems of systems. We know there are problems of corruption. But the money that has gone to the counties so far has done something. It is visible. It varies, of course, from place to place. But we must appreciate that this amendment is enabling our counties to get an enhancement of resources from 15% to 35%. The argument of whether the country will be in a position to generate those resources is neither here nor there. That is not under our purview. We are making this constitution so that whoever is in power can implement it. Can implement it, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, as we move forward, we must remind ourselves that a constitution-making process is not just a matter of law or legalese, Mr. Speaker. This is a political process, through and through, through and through, through and through. So you must always appreciate the fact that we are doing it for a purpose. And we must also understand where we are coming from. And that is why when you see me, Speaker, when you hear me speak even out there, I'm speaking very passionately. Because I know that mischief can be played. There is room for mischief in every process. And mischief can be clothed differently, Mr. Speaker. So when we sense that there is an attempt, however minute or little that attempt is, to either subvert or derail or otherwise make this process not move the manner it should move, we must call you out, Mr. Speaker. We must say it as it is, that where we have reached, we only need support of all of us, those of us who mean well for this country, so that we don't engage in sideshows. We don't engage in sideshows, that we focus on the ball and ensure that the country gets the constitution that they deserve. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that from here, this bill is heading to the people. It's heading back to Anjiku, as was very eloquently illustrated by the chairman. It is our hope and wish that no more hurdles are placed on the path of this process, Mr. Speaker. And whoever is out there who is listening to us must understand that this is not a child's play, that we shall allow you to bring in sideshows and academic arguments. We want everybody who is responsible to ensure that this process is smoothened and we head to the referendum as quickly as possible so that Kenyans can pronounce themselves on this bill and we move forward as a country. And those of us who want to mix up issues, who want to bring in matters as relevant as 2022 elections into this process, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you. 2022 will come and pass. But this constitution, God willing, will survive. It will take care of the interests of the current generation and the generations to come. And it's regardless of who will be in power, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I wish to support in totality this bill and look forward to having it passed overwhelmingly. Thank you, sir.
Member for Madeira. I gave you, you must have, yeah, now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise here to speak on behalf of the great people of Madeira, who are my employers and who inform my thinking on a day-to-day basis in whatever I say in this House. Mr. Speaker, we are in unprecedented times. As we speak here about constitutional amendments, there are many Kenyans who have gone without food. There are many Kenyans who have no masks. There are many Kenyans who don't know where they'll get the next meal. There are many Kenyans who are staring at death, not because of COVID-19, but because of hunger. There are many Kenyans who have been thrown out of their houses because they cannot pay rent. And those Kenyans from my constituency are telling me that they would have wanted us to have a special sitting to discuss how they'll be fed, to discuss how they'll pay rent, to discuss about their lives and how they can stay away from death. Those Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, are of the view that in terms of priority, any money available to this country should be applied to get them vaccinated as of yesterday, to protect them from possible death and to make sure that they have an opportunity to live on and look after their children and educate them. It is for that reason that they tell me, and as I subscribe to that view, that in terms of priority, we have gotten our priorities upside down. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I heard the chairman of JLAC talk very passionately about Wanjiku, about her rights, about her needs, about her powers. I think he has been too busy with this report. He has not had time to travel to the countryside. Had he gone to Muranga, where he's come from, he would have been told that the name of that lady has been changed from Wanjiku to Wagio. Wagio, Mr. Speaker, is that lady who is overburdened, who cannot take an extra burden. She cannot be Wajiko in Meru, she is Wagio. And that Wagio doesn't want an extra burden. And the implementation of these proposed amendments will add an extra burden to Wagio. Wagio is not breathing. Her back is just about to break. She is staring at death from hunger because of the pandemic and the measures that have been put into place to make sure that people do not infect each other. Again, Mr. Speaker, I have looked at these amendments, and previously I've read the report very keenly, more than 10 times. We have been told that these amendments will address the issues of inclusivity. From what I see, what has been proposed, the offices that are being created are coming from one coalition. There before, governments were formed by coalitions when it was said we didn't have inclusivity. I don't know how these new positions coming from one side of the coalition will address inclusivity. In my thinking, probably naively, I thought that the formation of 47 county governments addressed the issue of inclusivity in totality, so that every county has funds, has its own government, and is able to deal with these unique challenges on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, looking at the schedule that is detailing how constituencies will be delineated, I want to say from the onset, the people of Nyeri, where I come from, have no business supporting these constitutional amendments. Because of discrimination. They were discriminated upon because when the BBI proponents went to seek views, they did not tell them to give views about creating extra constituencies. And the formula, and the criteria. Any constituency, Mr. Speaker, is 52% of Nyeri County. And I have seen other counties being proposed to have some extra constituencies. Madeira, where I represent, is a very big constituency. And I'm sure if the BBI proponents did not hijack this responsibility and left it to IBC, the people of Nyeri, the people of Kieni, the people of Madeira would have had a great opportunity to appear before the IBC and put up their case using figures and statistics and get constituencies. As it is, if these amendments go through, the people of Nyeri are cooked. They are nowhere. And I must tell the proponents, they'll have a very difficult time in Nyeri. You know, coming to tell people to support something when they feel discriminated. And I talk for the people of Kenya. I have 2 farms there, in Kabaru and in Kabarnet. Although my brother and my friend, the Honorable Kanini Kega, is supporting that we go ahead and leave out the people of Nyeri, I must talk for the people of Kenya, where I'm a resident and where I have a farm, that we shall have a problem with this document. We do not want discrimination in this country. We would have wanted to appear before IBC and put up our case, and we would have been heard because we have sufficient reasons to be heard. As it is, we are not heard. So, Mr. Speaker, as it is, I want to tell the Honorable Wandai, it's good. Let the proponents be ready to go to Wagio. There's no Wanjiko. They'll fight Wagio. Wagio is hungry. The late Bob Marley, Mr. Speaker, said, a hungry man is an angry man. As you go to overburden the people in a difficult time when they are dying from COVID, when there are issues, the real issues have not been addressed, where they have no food, when they don't know what to tell their children, and you are going to tell them to create positions for people, to overburden them, you'll find angry people. And angry people are not very nice people. And I wish you the best of luck. Mr. Speaker, I have firm and clear instructions from my employers to oppose these amendments. Thank you very much.
Member for Nyando.
Sorry? Oh, it's back. From the outset, Honorable Speaker, let me thank you for this opportunity. And together with the proponents of the BBI bill that is before this House, I join them. Honorable Speaker, we as a nation must firstly backtrack and get to understand how we ended up here. The country, after the 2017 elections, that was marred with a lot of illegalities and irregularities, if the Supreme Court decision is anything to go by, did invite a lot of divisions amongst the Kenyan people. Some of us who still believe to date that we were denied our victory took a different tangent that was not in sync with the peace and tranquility that a nation should have. But through wisdom, our 2 principles came together, barring their differences and reaching a common goal to have this country be united and once again move as a one unitary society. Honorable Speaker, that is what gave birth to the handshake and consequently the BBI as a document. And if there is anything that the handshake that brought about peace will be remembered for, is this BBI that we intend to have the Kenyan people through a referendum add their weight and their voice so that we can once again midwife a constitutional amendment. Just like 2010, we are once again in a constitutional moment. And Honorable Speaker, we were not born and created for constitutions. Constitutions are just but guiding principles on how people can transact and can relate with each other. And if there are areas where the Constitution does not act and work for us, it is our responsibility to make necessary amendments. No constitution the world over is cast on stone. And a time such as that has emerged, and we are, as Kenyans, coming up to make changes in areas where we feel the shoe pinches. We have worn this shoe for the last 11 years. Even the Constitution proposes 8 years to carry out amendments. We are at 11 years now. So we are actually time-barred to make necessary changes that work for us. But as is democratic, the naysayers must always be there. We will listen to them. And we will not have any given time when all legislative pieces will be presented, adopted, and passed. Otherwise, this House will have no work. And for those who think that their visions and their views have not been captured here, there will be a second amendment, there will be a third amendment, there will be a fourth amendment, just like the United States of America are beyond their 21st amendment to date. So this is not the last time. Mr. Speaker, we have had an elaborate process to get to where we are today. And the Kenyan voices have been heard, and that is what has been put in this document. So the views that are constantly heard, that certain individuals are forcing in the throat of Kenyans a document, that is not true, Honorable Speaker. Lots and lots of public participation exercises were carried out. People presented their views from across width and breadth of this nation. And those who are promoters of this document did not go out there to come up with their own views, but they collected Wanjiku's views. And therefore, we, as a people who have been given the mandate to lead, must always tell the truth that this is a document that is reflective of the wishes and aspirations of the Kenyan people, Honorable Speaker. We know that the end game here is a referendum. I know certain views have been advanced that after this, the document can be taken to the House on the Hill and be assented to, and it becomes law. That can never be so, and that cannot stand. The Kenyan people must have their voices heard through a referendum. And even the naysayers will be heard. It is not so automatic that once it appears before the Kenyan people, it must pass. No. Kenyans will be given an opportunity to express their views on this document by way of voting. So for those who think that this is not in sync with their desires, they can vote no. And that is still democratic. Some of us, including myself, who are ardent supporters of this document, will vote yes. And up to now, we believe that we have the majority. But that does not mean that we shall sideline the minority. We will hear you, and we shall give you another opportunity in the nearest future as we come up with our second amendment so that those views can also be incorporated, Honorable Speaker. Amendments are always carried out to reorient people's lives. It is not something that is coming from the blues. And these are areas where we have identified, and the voluminous bill has gone in depth to try to dissect fundamental issues that bedevil this country. And one of them is divisive elections. No country can develop if each and every 5 years they have to be subjected to rounds of violence. No investor, domestic or foreign, will put his capital investments in a country that is staring at violence and destruction of property every 5 years. That can never be so. So we are trying the much we can under the circumstances to fix these emerging issues that would prevent this nation from making rapid flights on its economic progress. And we know that with this document, Honorable Speaker, we are on the right path. Honorable Speaker, the process must inevitably have supporters and non-supporters. And that is why people meet at the ballot to express their views, Honorable Speaker. One fundamental thing that I will strive to support this bill to the hilt is the mere fact that additional funding will be going back to our counties. 35% from 15% is monumental amount of money. And that is going to support lots of devolved functions at the counties. The hospitals will be built. There will be adequate medicine. Our roads will be worked on. Water will be provided. And I come from a constituency where water still becomes a problem, even though on the flip side, we have flooding every year. So if the county government will be getting additional funds to provide water services, then places like Nyando constituency will confine into history books this waterlessness that we eternally have up to now. And Honorable Speaker, what I would have suggested, even for the Senate, together with the Council of Governors, and all the stakeholders in the devolved functions, including the Ministry of Devolution, is that the devolved funds should take the tangent of the CDF funds, where monies can only be disbursed when they are already plugged onto projects. But giving governors and the county assemblies monies that still go there and they have to now sit down and decide which direction money goes, that is why we have pilferages, Honorable Speaker. It is very difficult to pilfer national government CDF because it is tied to projects. And that is why all over the country, wherever you go, you see nothing but CDF-funded projects. And how I wish that CDF would also be increased from 2.5% to even 5%, so that we can address the plight of our schools, the plight of our chiefs and their assistant chiefs, together with the plight of the police who carry out our security arrangements down there. And Honorable Speaker, the Youth Commission, which will be addressing the concerns of our youths from the grassroots. And you know, it is a time bomb, and this has been said severally, that these youths without any tangible income will one day become disastrous to this country. And the Youth Commission will be able to have all the CVs of the youths, if they have any, try to put them into jobs, address their problems as they emerge. Those who would want to do businesses will be given monies so that our youths can as well be engaged. And this is the productive lot of our society that we cannot wish away. On the same, Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy that there will be a moratorium spread on the Higher Education Loans Board, that is expended to students in various universities and colleges. 7 years upon graduation is ample time to put their houses in order so that when they start paying back these monies to the government, they shall have stabilized and they will not be hard-pressed on meeting this obligation, Honorable Speaker. The ward funds, which will be under the purview of the members of county assemblies, will also go a long way in addressing issues at the county, at the ward levels, and this is something that we all stand in solidarity to support, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there will not be such a moment such as this. Constitutional making process is not a one-stop shop and is not an easy thing to achieve, especially when you have people who have gone through an electoral process and have fought tooth and nail in order that they can seize the power. And this is the only moment that we have seen protagonists coming together to address the problems that have emerged in this nation for way too long. It is not about Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and in fact, he has sacrificed it all to have this country have a semblance of peace. It is not about President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is about the Kenyan people addressing their issues of concerns so that once again, the country can move forward as one united nation. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
Honorable members, I want to reiterate what the Speaker had earlier communicated to the members, that on this motion, we shall strictly follow the LOTA. And if you want to know where you are, you have the liberty to go to the clerk's screen and see where you are. I will strictly follow that as the Speaker had earlier communicated. Regardless of whether 2 or 3 people come from one side, I will follow this list. Honorable Masara Francis, member for Suna West.
Mr. Speaker, you'll allow me, with my 15 minutes, to remove my mask because everybody is putting on the mask. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this chance. And as well, I want to thank the people of Suna West for electing me so that I can be part and parcel of this historic moment of changing the Constitution for prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the first and ever popular initiative which has happened in Kenya is this one, Mr. Speaker. Because way back in 2017, over 16 million people voted for the 2 brothers. That is His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. They delegated their powers and authorities and rights to them to speak on their behalf. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, when they decided as people who competed and, on the presidential election to sit together and agree on matters of this country, Mr. Speaker, I can say that is a big blessing. Mr. Speaker, reforming or changing constitution has never been easy anywhere. And those who believe that the status quo is benefiting them will always come out in opposing whatever the people want to get. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to say that the BBI initiative and the BBI amendment bill of 2020 is what has really brought a lot of good things to us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that in this proposed amendment bill, in clause 11A, shared prosperity, Mr. Speaker, that clause is going to help us as a country because the state is now is mandated in the Constitution to promote the blue economy. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming from the lakeside. Therefore, it means the fishermen, the people around Lake Victoria coming from Nyanza and Migori in particular will be taken, their interests will be taken care of. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak also on Mr. Speaker, I want to speak on clause 51. Clause 51, Mr. Speaker, clause 50. Clause 50 is going to amend the Constitution so that the percentage which was being given to the counties from 15% to 35%. Mr. Speaker, my background, I came from the local government. We were receiving small money called Latif, and that Latif really changed the areas where councillors used to work well to enhance the development of the people. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the CDF money now, the CDF money has really improved development in all areas in Kenya today. In each constituency, if you walk around, you'll see a signboard of money, a project which has been done by CDF money. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution, if you look at clause 11, also talks about how the people messing with the public money are going to be penalized. Therefore, if the money for counties increase from 15 to 35%, Mr. Speaker, the issue of inclusivity is going to be realized. The inclusivity in the sense that each and every area, be it in Turkana, be it in Mombasa, be it in Migori, be it in Baringo, each Kenyan is going to enjoy the fruits of the cake in terms of development. Mr. Speaker, as well, I want to talk about clause 54 on World Development Fund. Currently, at its stands, the ward reps are at the whim of the governor. If you are not singing, a good tune which the governor entertains, your area is not being allocated money. But now, moving forward, Mr. Speaker, each ward rep will receive 5% of the total money allocated to their counties. Therefore, it means, Mr. Speaker, that each area, each village will receive money from the national government, through county government, through ward development fund. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the same clause, which is going to amend section 207A on ward development fund. With ward development fund enshrined in the constitution, the MCAs will do their oversight role because they'll be able to pinpoint areas where the governor is not doing well without necessarily being punished for doing that. Mr. Speaker, I'll also speak to clause 51. Clause 51. Mr. Speaker, the same clause talks about clause, sorry, Mr. Speaker, clause 63. This is where of my interest most. The clause is trying to amend section 237A and a creation of youth commission. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in the history of this country, we are going to create an independent commission which is going to cater for the interests of the young generation of this country. Youths forms the bigger percentage of the population of this country. But when people are discussing about development, about interest, nobody is thinking about the youth. So therefore, for the first time, the clause 263 4B talks of mainstreaming of the youth perspective in planning and decision making. For the first time, the interest of the youth is going to be mainstream so that they participate actively and independently in decision making. Section C of it talks of the commission will advise the national and county governments on design, implementation, and evaluation of policies and programs to secure sustainable livelihoods for the youth, Mr. Speaker. Youths now, as we talk, they don't know how to live because they don't see hope. But when this bill is passed, Mr. Speaker, the county government and the national government will be forced by the Constitution to look on how their livelihood can be sustained. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this country, that, this parliament, women have their commission which support them. People living with disability have those who support them. Teachers have those who commissions which support them. But for the first time, youths are going to be given opportunity to be part and parcel of decision making. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the composition of that commission, it is talking of 4 members must be youths. It means out of the 6, the majority will be youths. That means decision which is going to be made in this commission will favor the youth. Mr. Speaker, I support this promotion because this particular bill, because it is going to promote the preservation and dissemination of Africans' morals, traditions, and cultures among the young people. Mr. Speaker, this bit is very important for this country. As we speak in the current generation, many youths don't understand their cultures. Many youths don't understand African cultures. They have been westernized to an extent that they don't know what belongs to Africa. And now in the Constitution, if we pass this bill, Mr. Speaker, the Commission is going to ensure that they'll promote and preserve and disseminate. There are 3 things there. They'll promote, they'll preserve, and they'll disseminate information related to African culture, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we talk now, if you ask current generation why somebody need to respect the parent. They don't understand. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to urge members that as we move forward, as we make this constitution, we must understand that it is for the current generation and the generation to come. Opposing it is not a problem, because even I'm a Christian, Mr. Speaker, in the Bible, for things to work the way they are working now, it forced God, who is very merciful, to eject Lucifer from heaven and send him to this country we are now on earth, so that things can be put in place for heaven to be real heaven. Therefore, those who are opposing these things, we encourage you, but I know, Mr. Speaker, when President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo sits together, my friend, nobody can defeat their initiative. That one assurance I know. I discussed with the people of Sona West, and they told us that so long as Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta are supporting the initiative, they are going to vote for this particular, when it comes to referendum, they are going to vote 100% so that they can receive money for development, so that the youth can be, the youth's interest can be protected, so that World Development Fund can be protected. But as well, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that from the mood I'm seeing, very few people are going to oppose, because Sonkok talked with me earlier today and told me, Mr. Masara, Honorable Masara, I'm not going to oppose this thing because youth's interest is scattered for. The rest of the things we'll get one day, one time, because we are going to nominate, for the first time, Sonkok is going to contest and maybe get to be second so that he can be nominated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the bill in entirety the way it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is it? What is it? What is it? Honorable Masara, you are done? You are done, okay. Next in the list is Honorable Sotsi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this very historic motion of amending the Constitution of Kenya for the second time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I will want to start by thanking the committee, the Joint Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs of both the National Assembly and Senate for the good work. Mr. Speaker, I've had an opportunity to go through this report, and this is one of the best reports that I've ever read in this House, Mr. Speaker, because they have tried to capture every small detail on this bill. They have tried to dissect every issue that required to be dissected. And I also want to say that Parliament managed to assemble what I would call a committee of experts. Because in this joint committee, Mr. Speaker, we have around 28 members. And out of that, 18 members are lawyers of huge reputation in this country. So whatever report they have given us, Mr. Speaker, it is a report that is competent, that is a report that is very professional, and that it is a report, in my own view, I think is a report that is good for this House. And I would encourage fellow members of Parliament, please take your time, read through this report, so that the contribution we make in this House, it should be informed by this report and not what other people are writing outside there. Mr. Speaker, the second thing that I want to put across is that what we are dealing with here, Mr. Speaker, is the constitutional issues reflected in the BBI report. We still have legislative issues, policy and administrative issues, which I want to ask the House to expedite on these other aspects in the BBI report, so that particular bills that we are supposed to deal with, they are brought to this House and we finalize matters to do with BBI as soon as possible. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, I have been among the members who have been saying Parliament cannot be a bystander. Parliament cannot be a rubber stamp. But reading through this report and listening to the contribution of the mover and the seconder, I am convinced, Mr. Speaker, that there is no room to amend this bill. There is no room to amend this bill. This bill belongs to the people of Kenya. Our role under Article 257 is to pass it or reject it. And then it will go to the people of Kenya to make a decision. There has been also a concern raised by some people as to whether this bill is properly a popular initiative. Mr. Speaker, if you read through this report, it gives a very good historical background of where we started from. We started with the divisive election of 2017, where we had two leaders who got a cumulative votes of 15 million Kenyans supporting them. Then these two leaders, in their own wisdom, decided to shake hands in the handshake. And that handshake had an agreement signed, a joint communique between the two. That is where we started. So for those of us who are saying that this does not qualify to be a popular initiative, I think they are not with us in this country. Because we have two leaders who are voted for by Kenyans, 15 million votes. Those 15 million votes were people of Kenya. That is where the legitimacy of this bill is coming from. The people of Kenya. So this is a people initiative, and our role is to pass this bill to the people in a referendum, and the Kenyans will make their decision known. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, I want to raise is the issues that we have been hearing in the media. Mr. Speaker, last week we were fed with information that some county assemblies passed bills which were not authentic. Mr. Speaker, if you read this report, it is very clear that the bills that went to the county assemblies and they were passed were authentic and for being wise, that the Speaker of the National Assembly constituted a committee that came up with the guidelines for the delivery of the county assembly returns. And those guidelines were gazetted on the 18th of November, 2021. And those guidelines captured the possible administrative gaps in this process. And that has been captured in this report. So what we have been hearing in the media about some non-authentic bills being passed by some county assembly, I think that is not true. And that's why I'm asking members, please don't rely on rumors when you come to debate here. Read through the report. Most of the questions that we asked yesterday are fully captured in this report. Mr. Speaker, I also want to talk about the issue of the sovereign powers of the people of Kenya, which is captured under Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, which is very clear that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. Second part of it says that that sovereign power will be exercised directly or through democratically elected representative of the people. Third part of it says that this sovereign power is delegated to 3 state organs. That is Parliament, National Executive, and Judiciary. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution under Article 94 gives this House the legislative authority, which is derived from the people of Kenya and vested and exercised by Parliament. Mr. Speaker, since we are not amending this bill, we are passing it as it is. It will not be right for any other individual or any other organ to shoot down the people's initiative. I am saying that because under Article 157, it gives judiciary the powers, just the same way Article 94 gives us the people's power. So we also expect that the judiciary will also do the same and deliver this to the people of Kenya. Because it will be very unfair that Parliament that represents the people of Kenya passes a document without amendment, and then a judge, one person, or a bench of judges shoot down this initiative. It will be unfair, and I'm asking that our judiciary, now that we have a new Chief Justice, please let us not take Kenyans in circles. Let us give Kenyans what they want to have. If I go to the substance of the bill, Mr. Speaker, I wish to comment on Chapter 4, which talks about privacy of citizen personal data. Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very progressive provision because of where the world is going to. It's mandatory for countries under the United Nations to have a legal regime on matters to do with personal data. And as you are aware, the country passed data protection law, and now we have a data protection office. So this is a very progressive amendment, which I would wish that once this bill is enacted into law, this amendment should be. Let me also talk about Chapter 6, which talks about the fight against corruption. And it has recommended that corruption cases will be handled expeditiously. Mr. Speaker, we know of corruption cases that have taken even 20 years, like Goldenberg, Anglo Leasing, and others. We want to be clear that such cases should take a maximum of 2 years, and they are concluded, people are made to return money, or they are put in jail, because corruption is the biggest cancer in this country. And therefore, this provision is very progressive in the fight against corruption in this country. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about Chapter 9, which talks about the office of the Prime Minister, 2 deputy Prime Ministers, and the ministers being drawn from this House. Mr. Speaker, this is a very progressive amendment because we have all been frustrated because ministers sit outside this House. But now we are going to have a chance where a Prime Minister will sit in this House, we'll ask him questions, and we will also have ministers in this House who are going to be asked questions directly instead of waiting for months, years, for your issues to be dealt with. Mr. Speaker, I also want to talk about Chapter 11, which talks about an increase of shareable revenue from 15% to 35%. Mr. Speaker, this is again very progressive because our county systems, especially for smaller counties like where I come from, Vihiga, they are having challenges on issues of financial management. But with an increase into this amount, we are going to have counties operating almost seamlessly. And this is a very progressive amendment, Mr. Speaker. Talking about constituency, Mr. Speaker, which my colleagues have talked about here, Mr. Speaker, I managed to find out how the constituencies were being allocated. And I was told by one of the experts that they based the formula on population data. Population data to find out how many constituencies can be allocated to a county. And because there was an outcry that the Legal Commission may have given more county to some areas than others. So they were seeking to get a balance of what should have been, a shortfall of what should have been given. But how I thought that we should have used constituency data and not county data. Because we have some constituencies which are big, but they are sandwiched with smaller constituencies in a county. For example, Mr. Speaker, where I come from, Vihiga County, we have a constituency called Hamisi constituency, with a huge population, but it suffered because of low population of Vihiga County, and therefore it is not considered among the new constituencies to be considered for extra constituency. Mr. Speaker, even after this constitution is passed, IEBC can still have an opportunity maybe in 2024 to create more or rationalize the areas which have been disadvantaged like Hamisi and others. Mr. Speaker, I want to end by saying that this is a very important process, and we are asking our brothers from the Tanga side to support this process, because Honorable Rigathi has talked about this and said he rejecting, but I'm told that the Mount Kenya members of parliament who made a proposal to Ruto asked him for the position of prime minister. Where are you going to get that prime minister if you don't support this bill? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
We shall now have Honorable Aisha.
Asante sana Mr. Bwana Speaker. Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nimesimama kuipinga kwa dhati hii bili ambayo tunaizungumzia leo. Na Mheshimiwa Speaker, nataka niseme ya kwamba kwanza naomba uniruhusu nitoe mask. Mheshimiwa, kwanza nataka nianze na kuiweka vizuri swala la mchakato mzima kutoka mwanzo wake mpaka hapa tulipofikia, Bwana Speaker, ya kwamba utaratibu wenyewe ambao ulitumika katika kufikia mahali tulipo hivi sasa kuwa na bill, ripoti zimekuwa katika hali ya kukanganyana kutoka Bomas 1, Bwana Speaker, KICC, Bwana Speaker, na Bomas 2. Ripoti zote, Mheshimiwa Speaker, zilikuwa zinakanganyana. Mheshimiwa Speaker, tumesikia ya kwamba bill ambayo imepelekwa katika County Assembly, kwen mabunge ya county kwenda kuzungumziwa, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni kwamba bill hii Asante.
Proceed.
Asante. Mheshimiwa Speaker, bill ambayo ilipelekwa katika mabunge yetu ya county, tulipata kujua ya kwamba bill ile ambayo IEBC chairman alitoa, alipata kopi moja ikakuwa gazetted, lakini ile ambazo zimepelekwa kwa County Assembly kuzungumziwa zilitoka kwa Secretariat ya BBI, Mheshimiwa Speaker, ambayo zilipofika kwa chairman ambaye ni Chebukati, Mheshimiwa Speaker, hazikuwa bills ambazo zimekuwa gazetted. Mheshimiwa Speaker, mimi nataka niseme ya kwamba hilo peke yake, Mheshimiwa Speaker, inamaanisha kwamba tayari sheria ilikuwa imehujumiwa, kwa sababu zile bills ambazo zimefika kule katika mabunge yetu ya county, Mheshimiwa Speaker, tumepata kujua nyingine zilikuwa sawa, nyingine hazikuwa sawa. Na kwa sababu hiyo, Mr. Speaker, mimi nataka niseme na pinga, kwa sababu hatujui hata leo tukipitisha, sisi kama bunge tukipitisha, Hakuna ukweli ambao ambao tuko nao ya kwamba bili hii tumepitisha na itakayoenda sasa labda kwa referendum ama kwa kura ya maoni, Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa iko sawa, kwa sababu inaonekana kuna bills nyingi ambazo kila leo inatolewa hii, kesho inatolewa ile. Kwa sababu hiyo, Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuna uaminifu katika mchakato mzima huu wa BBI. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo ambalo mimi limenistaajabisha si kwamba ati tumevunja sheria kama bunge, lakini ni jambo la aibu, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwamba kikao cha dharura, kikao hususan kinaweza kuitwa, wabunge wanaweza kuitwa kutoka kwa muhula wao wa mapumziko kuja kwa kikao cha dharura kuja kuzungumzia mchakato wa BBI badala ya kuzungumzia matatizo yanayomwathiri mwananchi katika hali hii ngumu ya maisha katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, tungekuwa leo tunazungumzia angalau ripoti ya kutoka kwa Wizara ya Afya na mchakato mzima ambao serikali yetu kupitia Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta imeweka kumhusu mwananchi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini leo tunazungumzia
order Honorable Aisha. What is out of order Honorable Bui Robert?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It is time for Honorable Bui.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm on a point of order. I have listened very keenly to my sister, the Honorable Member for Malindi. And Mr. Speaker, she has stated unanswered that members of Parliament have been called back from resting. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to go on record that we were not at home resting. We were actually stopped from being in Parliament because of the COVID-19. So we've come actually here to come and deal with issues of BBI, not because we've come from resting, but because we are closed. We would have actually been in Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, is she in order? Is she in order to say that we are coming from home, we are supposed to be resting?
Order, Honorable Bui. That, Honorable Bui.
Mheshimiwa Spika, Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
Clearly you are giving certain information to Honorable Aisha. It's not a point of order. Honorable Aisha, proceed.
Mheshimiwa Spika, Kiswahili kitukuzwe. Tumetoka kwenye mapumziko na tukaitwa hususan kwa kikao maalum. Kwa hivyo hapo hakuna hoja ambayo inatatiza, Mheshimiwa. Na nataka pia labda ningekushauri ukapata kidogo darasa la Kiswahili, manake ni lugha ambayo inaeleweka kikatiba, inatambulika kikatiba. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niseme ya kwamba wananchi katika taifa letu la Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao sisi wametupa nguvu zao kuweza kuwasemea katika bunge hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, leo wananchi wanaumia na ugonjwa wa corona. Oxygen katika mahospitali zetu hakuna. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wamechukua loan, wanakufa na depression. Watu wana mizigo mikubwa. Leo sisi tunakuja hapa kuzungumzia bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo kwanza inatuongezea mzigo, inaongezea mzigo wa Njiku ambaye tayari sahihi ana mzigo wa kutulipa mishahara sisi wabunge 416. Tunazungumzia kumuongezea mzigo wa 650 ya wabunge, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, wa Njiku kule nje hakuna vile, Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi wabunge tunakosa mshahara hivi leo. Mshahara wetu tunaupata kikamilifu, Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini walioko kule nje wanaumia, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ukiangalia biashara ya utalii, ukiangalia transport industry, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni watu ambao wamefinyiliwa na sekta nyingi za watu ambao wanafanya biashara katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Ni mikakati gani ambayo sisi kama bunge ama sisi kama taifa kwa niaba ya mwananchi wa chini tumeiweka, Mheshimiwa Spika? Ukiangalia hakuna. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kusema hivi. Biblia inasema katika kitabu cha Mathayo 6:33 kwamba tutafute ufalme wa mbinguni na vyote tutaongezewa. Lakini katika taifa la Kenya tunasikia ya kwamba tutafute BBI na mizigo yote tutaongezewa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tutaongezewa ushuru kwa sababu ya kulipa wabunge 650, Mheshimiwa Spika. Tutaongezewa mizigo ya kodi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni jambo la kusikitisha sana. Tunapokaa hapa, waheshimiwa, na waomba tufikirie mwananchi kwanza. Mheshimiwa Spika, Hakuna, mimi naamini ya kwamba hakuna Mheshimiwa Spika aliyesema anahitaji wabunge 650 katika bunge la 13 linalokuja Mheshimiwa Spika. Ndio maana tunasema ripoti hii ama bill hii Mheshimiwa Spika ni ya kukataliwa na wananchi kule nje. Nina imani leo wananiona ya kwamba watakapopitisha watakaoumia ni wananchi. Sisi tutakuwa starehe hapa hata kama tuko 700 watatulipa. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niseme wananchi kule nje wajipange na wajue ya kwamba huu ni mzigo wao, si mzigo wa wabunge ambao wamekaa starehe ndani ya bunge hili letu la taifa. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka niwasihi, wakati kama yote yataenda paka yawarudie wao, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka niwaombe, nataka niongee na taifa ya kwamba huu mzigo hakuna atakayeutoa kwa mabega yao isipokuwa wao. Watakaoweza kufanya hivyo ni wananchi wenyewe. Asanteni sana.
Next is Honorable Orekenta, member for Narok North.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm greatly honored to get this opportunity to also contribute to this very historic motion. Honorable Speaker, the history of this country is full of instances and constitutional moments when this country really could have put things right. Honorable Speaker, just before independence, we had the Lancaster House Conference. And that was a conference that divided Kenya down the middle. And that was when land rights were actually destroyed. Because during that conference, lands that were supposed to go back to the people who are deprived of those lands were actually abrogated and denied by independent government. So that was the first time that the Kenyan lost the opportunity to actually bring all the Kenyans together. Honorable Speaker, after independence, there were piecemeal amendments. In 1996, there was the attempt to change the constitution to stop President Moi from taking over the leadership of this country. Fortunately, it failed because the founding president actually blocked it. In 1992, Honorable Speaker, there was a change of Section 2A of the Constitution to reintroduce multipartyism. Now, in 2010, we had a Constitution which was very progressive, and it is still there, which was said to be 80% perfect and 20% problematic. And I think that was one of the issues that was supposed to be resolved. When we come to now, as my colleagues have said, this is a moment that must not pass us. And I would like to request my colleagues to debate this matter with the sobriety that is really meant for any leader worth his salt. Honorable Speaker, this is not a political competition at the moment. It's not a matter of who is right and who is wrong. It is a matter of how do we bring our people together? How do we ensure that that segregation that has been there for so long is actually vanquished? Honorable Speaker, I have heard of Wanjiko, and maybe I can also introduce Naserian for the Maasai people. I actually represent the Narok North constituency. And my instructions as Gachagua from his own constituency is that I support this bill. Why did they say that I support it? Because the first two proponents, who are actually Kenyan citizens like anybody else, the president of this country, Uhuru Kenyatta, the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, as I have said, are also citizens like me and anybody else, came together to bring this country together. Honorable Speaker, I remember when we went to welcome Honorable Raila Odinga at the airport one time, the kind of death that we witnessed on the streets of Nairobi is something that should never be repeated. And so when they came together, my people and my community at large actually realized that time for them to stand with these people is now. Why do I say that? These are the two giants of the Kenyan political scene. They are the ones who can actually bring this country together. And when they brought this initiative, and there was public participation, the Kenyan people agreed with them, and several issues were brought to the fore that have been actually polarizing this country. Honorable Speaker, when I hear my colleagues say that there was no consultation, I'm shocked because, as far as I'm concerned, the team that actually initiated this process went all over the country. But unfortunately, some of the Kenyan people decided to boycott those hearings. So one cannot boycott a hearing and then come now and say they are not included or they are not consulted. I think that one is not the right thing to do, and I think it's hypocritical. Honorable Speaker, there are many issues, and I would like now to go to the substance of the amendments. One of them is actually the extra 70 constituencies. Narok is getting 3. We are supporting it because the resources will increase, and these resources will assist our people. The only problem is the people of Narok must decide for themselves the boundaries of these constituencies. They must decide for themselves how they want to be governed. Because we have seen a tendency these days that people from elsewhere come and carve for themselves areas to contest at the expense of the local people. And I think the most important thing is that the local people's interest must be taken care of. So if anybody believes that they are a majority at a particular place, they can disenfranchise the people of Narok or anywhere else. I believe then that we are not fostering peace. We are actually trying to create a situation whereby there will be bad blood and eventually the flare-up of clashes, which we have stopped since 2007. So I'll just like to maybe caution that even when you create these constituencies, let it be for the people, for the ordinary and the local people, not necessarily for other people. Because when you look at these constituencies, Narok, for example, has 3. Some counties have 6. Yet the same counties with 6 want to come and take part of those. For example, if you have 3 in Narok, you want to take 1 or 2, then where are the local people left? If you go to Kajiado, there are 3. The local people are denied those 3. How do you do it? You go to Eldoret to do the same thing. Then how do you foster peace as far as that one is concerned? So I support, but it must be an initiative of the local people. Honorable Speaker, we have seen that now there is an opportunity for the marginalized people, the disabled, the women, or the women gender, and others, the Maasai, for example, who have been marginalized since independence, have a chance now to also play a bigger role as far as the issues affecting this country politically, economically, and socially. They now have a chance to actually also participate. So I believe if we can actually ensure, when it comes to employment, that each community, as long as somebody is qualified, gets an opportunity to serve the country, then I think there will be no reason for any misunderstanding. Because let us be honest. There is something that destroys a country. The moment there is an opportunity of employment, and it's the same names that appear in every employment opportunity, then I think it creates a situation whereby some people feel, or some communities feel, that they've been left out. Because you must realize we are equal as far as this is concerned. So when you talk about cohesion, it's important that from now on, we ensure that this constitution protects each equally. Because let us also look at it this way. We can make constitutions, and if there is no goodwill on the part of the leadership to ensure that what they do is constitutional, then of course it will be meaningless. Because what is important is the applicability, is the implementation of those things to affect and to benefit all Kenyans, not necessarily a particular section. Honorable Speaker, we have talked about peace. We have talked about peace. And peace can only be there if there is justice, if there is fair play. Like, for example, in the last election, there was a clear manifestation of rigging, whereby people were deciding, we want to elect so-and-so, and somebody else there manipulates the computer and makes his own appointment, as far as this is concerned. So what happens in such situations? So we must ensure that the electoral process is fair, it is just, and the choice of the people is respected, not the choice of political pundits. When it comes to the issue of leadership, Honorable Speaker, we have said severally here and elsewhere that we have lost leadership as far as the cabinet is concerned. Why am I saying that? The ordinary person The ordinary person cannot access a cabinet secretary because this one is a stranger. It is somebody who has come from nowhere. He has no link and he has no connection with the people of Kenya. So when we bring the cabinet back to the people's elected representatives, then I think we are going somewhere, because these are the people who are actually elected. These are the people who are respected. These are the people who are trusted by the Kenyan people. So I think the issue of bringing the cabinet back to parliament is one of the things that has been the view and has been the wish of most of the Kenyan people. In fact, when you look at also the Prime Minister's position, and I think even those people who are opposing this thing should think twice, because they might be getting an opportunity to survive. Because when you look at the leader of opposition, that person is going to be number 3 in parliament. So I believe, because there will be, of course, winners and losers, I believe it's important that we embrace it so that those who lose will be able at least to survive as leader of opposition. In any case, when you talk about the Prime Minister, you talk about 2 deputy Prime Ministers, we are not actually burdening the Kenyan people. We are actually lessening the burden, because it will be a concentrated government, whereby you'll be a parliamentarian and at the same time a minister. So you are not going to have a cabinet secretary outside and then you have an MP in parliament. So I think it's actually a reduction of the cost. And it will also expand the opportunities for many Kenyans. Because if, for example, the president is from Central or from Rift Valley or from elsewhere, then of course the people of the coast will get an opportunity to either have a prime minister or a deputy prime minister or something like that. So you will realize that there is a bigger pool to tap from. And this one will actually bring satisfaction to the people. Honorable Speaker, there is the issue of counties. We always say that we have brought services, or we have taken services closer to the people. I know with good management, the kind of resources we are now taking back to the counties will ensure that the resources in this country actually reach the electorate down there. The wards are actually the axis of development. It's a political axis of any county, and MCAs have actually been delegated to the periphery by governors. So when we give them a certain amount of money, 35% ward allocation, then of course now they'll be able to do something. When we take 35% of the resources to the counties, then definitely that one will also create a wider development scope, and I think it's going to be of benefit to the people of Kenya. We have also talked about the issue of petitions, and I think when you expand the time for the petitions against the president being heard within 30 days, then of course it will ensure that there is adequate preparation for the resolution of this matter. And actually there will be no unnecessary tension, there will be no unnecessary delay in determining these matters, and it's actually going to make Kenya a bit peaceful as such. There is also the issue of petitions from parliamentarian such. In fact, when you drag, for example, elect a member of parliament through the processes from the High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, you are destroying that person financially and even politically. So I think the fact that we are going to have this matter finalized at the Court of Appeal really means that it will save a lot of resources and time to determine these matters. Honorable Speaker, in closing, I would like to just say that my colleagues who are with us, those who are not siding with us, must come to the realization that these constitutional amendments are of benefit to this country. They are not politically motivated, and we should actually stand and say, as the Kenyan Parliament, this is what our people want, not this is what our masters want. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kitui Central.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity.
Honorable Speaker, I want also to make my contribution to this important bill, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. And as part of my opening remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to start by thanking the committee, the joint committee, which looked at this bill and did a very detailed report. Honorable Speaker, I must confess I've looked at this report, and I can actually say it's a good report. It provides a lot of information which will help in adding value to this important bill. Honorable Speaker, this bill is not perfect. I want to start by saying that. It has some very progressive proposals, but at the same time, Honorable Speaker, I think there are areas which, to me, as a member of parliament for Kitui Central, and as somebody coming from Kitui County, I would say I'm not happy with. So as I make my contribution, Honorable Speaker, I will be able to point out areas which I think I'm not happy with. I want to start, Honorable Speaker, with Clause 3 of this bill. Clause 3 of this bill, Honorable Speaker, talks about economy and shared prosperity. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the history of this country and try to analyze why some Kenyans say they don't belong to this country, is because of what I would call inequitable distribution of national resources. And to me, Honorable Speaker, this is one of the things which have meant a number of Kenyans feel like being marginalized. When you look at Clause 3, the issue of economy and shared prosperity, Honorable Speaker, to me, this is very progressive. Honorable Speaker, I want to state in this House that the county where I come from, Kitui County, we have been having a Class B road, which has remained untarmacked since independence. It is only this year, Honorable Speaker, now that this road has been done. And Honorable Speaker, I must say, really appreciate His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta for seeing the need to tarmac this road, because his government has supported tarmacking of this road. So, Honorable Speaker, and I see this clause talking about shared prosperity. To me, it makes a lot of sense. And this is very attractive to me and the people I lead, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, if you look at Part C of that clause, it talks about sustainable sources of livelihood. It says the state shall promote sustainable sources of livelihood, including agriculture, pastoralism, and the blue economy. And the D of it says the state will promote, or shall, meaning it's mandatory, promote an economic system that supports small and micro enterprises. Honorable Speaker, our county is very rich with mineral resources, Honorable Speaker, and they are not exploited. So to me, when I look at this clause, the clause is saying the state shall make sure that these resources are exploited for the benefit of our people. And to me, this is very attractive. And I will be supporting this bill because of this particular clause, because it's going to empower our people economically, and it's going to be really of much help to our people. Honorable Speaker, the other matter I want to raise is the matter of representation, Honorable Speaker. We have been told we are increasing the number of MPs to 360. Some members are saying to go to about 600 and that. And there's this argument, Honorable Speaker, about the cost of these positions. And Honorable Speaker, I think we need to be honest as honorable members. People need to take time and do a proper analysis of this proposal matters cost. Because, Honorable Speaker, from where I sit and where I stand, Honorable Speaker, when you analyze the cost implication of these additional positions, Honorable Speaker, there are high chances that actually the country will be saving money. And this can be proved through analysis of data, Honorable Speaker. Because we are saying we are now bringing ministers to this House and assistant ministers to this House, Honorable Speaker, and the truth of the matter is this will be members of Parliament. So they will only get additional allowance possibly when they become ministers. And we'll be doing away with the 22 CSs who are earning full salary, Honorable Speaker. We'll be doing away with 42 chief administrative secretaries who are earning salaries. And if you do that mathematics quickly, Honorable Speaker, there are high chances that actually you'll be saving. And I've taken time to look at this thoroughly. And I must say, Honorable Speaker, at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker, the issue of cost to me should really not be a major issue. Because when you look at the total budget, Honorable Speaker, this Parliament, at the end of the day, hardly takes more than 1.5% of the total budget. So, looking at that, Honorable Speaker, to me, I think the issue of cost doesn't make sense to me much. And thus I want to tie that, Honorable Speaker, with the issue of corruption. The Auditor General, Honorable Speaker, every year informs this House that we lose about a third of our budget, which is about $1 trillion, Honorable Speaker, to misapplication, misdirection, and corruption issues, Honorable Speaker. And if we were to sort out the issues of corruption, Honorable Speaker, even the 10 billion we are talking about, the referendum, Honorable Speaker, will be a drop in the sea. Because, Honorable Speaker, much more money is being spent or misused through corruption as compared to what we are likely to use to take care of this document. And all said and done, Honorable Speaker, we are talking about promoting peace and unity of this country. I don't see us achieving that, Honorable Speaker, by having Kenyans having no sense of belonging, that we belong to this country, because the more we remain divided, Honorable Speaker, as a country, the more we are likely to continue losing resources. Because after every election, there will be chaos, we will waste time, we will have no business, people will not do their work, and as a result of that, we will also be losing resources, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want now to some extent, Honorable Speaker, talk about the financial issues captured in this bill, which to me I think they are very progressive. Honorable Speaker, if you look at clause 12, it talks about the Senate taking over the issue of ensuring accountability in terms of count on revenue generated resources, Honorable Speaker. So at that level, it means now the Senate, other than just looking at what comes from the national government, it is good to look at what the counties are generating at their level and ensure that there's accountability, and at the same time also look at the expenditure part of that revenue. So, Honorable Speaker, to me, I think if this is done correctly, it's going to help this country in terms of financial management. The second point, Honorable Speaker, which I think is very important, is the issue of the county assembly fund. Honorable Speaker, our county assemblies are at the mercy of the governors and the executive. And, Honorable Speaker, of late, there are even cases where our MCRs are not getting salaries because the governor decided they cannot pay. And to me, I think this financial autonomy, what I call independence, Honorable Speaker, will go a long way in ensuring that our county assemblies, Honorable Speaker, do their work effectively. But for now, there are some of them who are being told if you don't do 1, 2, 3, we are not going to give you money. So, Honorable Speaker, I want really to say this is a progressive recommendation because we want to see our county assemblies being independent matters financial. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, is important in this bill is the issue of the time release of resources. Honorable Speaker, over time, there has been a lot of delay in releasing money to the counties, and more so when there are challenges to do with the division of revenue bill. If we don't pass the DORA in time, there has always been a delay. This bill is proposing, Honorable Speaker, that now, once we pass this bill, counties will have to get their money, whether this House has passed DORA or not. What are they proposing? They are proposing, if there is a delay in passing DORA, then counties should be able to be given money on the basis of 50% of what was allocated in the previous year. And to me, I think this sorts the issue of the delay. The other thing is happening, Honorable Speaker, I think is important, is also the issue of the CARA. They are saying where the county revenue allocation bill is late, Honorable Speaker, they are saying then the counties will also be able to access 50% based on what they approved the previous year. And this also does allow the counties to prepare their budgets on the basis of not DORA, but their budget on the basis of all what they have as local needs. And I think to me this is very important, Honorable Speaker. So this is something which to me is also progressive. The other point, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of the 15% or that 5% increase for county allocation. Resources going to the county. Honorable Speaker, the truth of the matter is, When we say 15%, anything additional is at the discretion of whoever is ruling. When we say minimum of 35, it means there's no discretion. So whoever comes in, and we don't care who will come in, the 35% of that money will have to go to the counties. And for some of us who come from counties where we have been in opposition for a long time, Honorable Speaker, I think this is very critical. We want to get our share, and let us now deal with our local issues in terms of who is the governor, whether the governor is misappropriating resources or not. But the fact that the money will flow to the county, irrespective of whether you are voted for the ruling party or not, to me that is a positive for this country. And I think I really want to urge people to support this. Because, Honorable Speaker, we don't know who is going to be in the opposition today and who is going to be in the government tomorrow. Today you are in the government, tomorrow you are likely to be in the opposition. So let's support this because it's ensured that at least that 5% of the resources find their way to the counties, Honorable Speaker. The other point, Honorable Speaker, is the World Development Fund. To me, Honorable Speaker, the World Development Fund is very important. Very, very important. Because the MCRs who never see eye to eye with the governors. And as a result of that, they have been actually marginalized, those particular wards. So with this proposal, Honorable Speaker, we are now very sure that every ward in every county will be able to access some minimum resources to do development in the ward. And this is also applicable to CDF. Honorable Speaker, we have so many cases against CDF. And these cases have been in court. People claiming CDF is not constitutional. Now that we are pushing CDF to be part of the Constitution, and that is now Clause 52, Honorable Speaker, of this bill, by the fact that we pass this Clause 52, then nobody will go to court claiming CDF is not constitutional. And to me, Mr. Speaker, I still believe, as a Kenyan, CDF still remains the most effective fund in terms of ensuring that Kenyans get value for money for all the development projects and programs. And I would really want to wish members support this so that CDF becomes part of our constitution and it continues helping us, our people. Honorable Speaker, let me talk about the issue of the politics around this bill. The issue of the gender equality, where we have been told, Honorable Speaker, there will be additional slots for people, the 7 slots take care of the gender issues. But one worrying thing, Honorable Speaker, and which I don't agree with as a person, is this statement which talks about equality of the vote. Which means, Honorable Speaker, the focus here now is all on population. But the Constitution is very clear, Honorable Speaker, that even as you create constituencies, there are other factors which must be considered. Area of what we call geographical area, and even other factors which are in the Constitution. So when you only talk about equality of the vote, Honorable Speaker, to me, I think we have been unfair to areas like where I come from, where we are not very many in terms of numbers, but we have very huge tracts of land, which cannot be ignored. Because, Honorable Speaker, if you are going to deliver development in such an area, you require more resources in terms of logistics and all that. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, and this is what I don't agree is, Honorable Speaker, personally, I don't agree with this Schedule 2. I've looked at it. I've analyzed, Honorable Speaker, and I've looked at it statistically. Honorable Speaker, I must confirm that there is no scientific method which has been used to come up with this schedule. Kitui County has 1.35 population, people in terms of population. We didn't get even a single constituency. And Honorable Speaker, we are saying, we want to pass this, but it should be the work of IBC to do delimitation so that it is done in a scientific manner without ignoring any part. The other one I want to say is even Kitui County is very big. We have always been demanding for an additional county, and we continue demanding for an additional county because we think for our people to get services effectively, we will need that county. So as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that there are good things, but there are also bad things in this bill. The issue is trying to check whether it's 80% bad or 20% good. Depending on that, we'll be telling our people to vote for the bill, but we'll be insisting that whatever we think is bad is also addressed at the right time, so that our people also benefit, Honorable Speaker. So with those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, because I can see time is becoming an issue, I want to say, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Mwashako, member for Udain. What is out of order, Honorable Washiri?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you may realize that some of us have been very patient from 10, waiting to have an opportunity to speak.
Order, Bashiri, because
I was just going to request the Honorable Speaker that now that you have a computerized system, will I be in order to request you to save the names and the members of Parliament and the order in which they are coming?
Bashiri, you know, because of time, Honorable, what we are doing is that we are using the lotter, and you can check where you are from the screen down here. Now it is member for Udanyi, and we are going strictly with the lotter.
I was just going to conclude on my request, Honorable Speaker, because we are going to come in at 2:30, because I don't see us getting an opportunity for us to speak now. Would it be possible, or will it be in order, Honorable Speaker, that you save the list of members who have not spoken in this morning session?
No, we can't do that, Honorable Washiri. What we shall do, in the afternoon, whoever comes first will get a chance first.
No,
that is the rule.
Is not fair,
Honorable Member
Speaker.
for Udanyi, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance and to have an opportunity to contribute to this so important bill, Constitution Amendment, Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. Mr. Speaker, it is true what my friend is saying that some of us have been sitting here quite long, but I think it is important that every member gets an opportunity to speak. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by correcting some information that is not correct. Number one, the members here who are insisting that the second schedule is not scientific. Some are saying it is not constitutional and all that. But Mr. Speaker, there's something members who have spoken in the morning are not telling us. They are giving us the number of people in their counties without telling us how many constituencies they have at the moment. Mr. Speaker, there are counties that have population, for instance, Kitui has been mentioned, over 1.3 million, with 8 constituencies. And you come to county like Kwale that has 850,000 people with only 4 constituencies. And therefore, it may appear that some counties are getting more constituencies, and yet already they have so little, and therefore the additional constituencies they do deserve. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this bill for 2 very critical reasons. One is about, it proposes on clause 63 to amend Article 237 of the current constitution to include a youth commission. Mr. Speaker, in this country, we have a very big population of young people who, and I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, if nothing is done for this youth, then we are sitting on a serious time bomb. We have youth who are so disenfranchised, youth who have gone to school and yet they cannot secure employment. We have youth who are semi-skilled and yet in the counties that they come from, there is nothing for them to do. And therefore, if as a country we do not enshrine the Youth Commission as envisaged in this constitutional amendment bill, then we would get into bigger problems as a country, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you, it has been said that youths are normally used during elections to create mayhem and violence. And this is, one reason is that they are idle, and as a country we've not given enough, the economy is not giving enough jobs, both skilled and unskilled, for our ever-growing youth population. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we have no choice but to pass this bill so that we have our young people getting a commission that will be able to address their issues. Second, Mr. Speaker, is about the constituencies. Mr. Speaker, I come from a county where 4 of our constituencies were protected, and therefore, if nothing was done, we would be losing another 2 constituencies in Taita Taveta County, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill has clearly indicated that in the second schedule, Mr. Speaker, that the creation of additional constituencies in Article 89(1) shall not result in the loss of a constituency existing before the commencement date of this act. And it even emphasizes further by saying, for greater certainty, any protected constituency in the counties of Tana River, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Marsabit, Isiolo, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Samburu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, Vihiga, and Busia shall not have their protected status impaired by the delimitation of additional constituencies mentioned in this schedule. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this bill gives comfort to the people who come from these 27 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, that then their constituencies will remain, and therefore they will continue feeling part and parcel of this country. And you know, BBI, as it came, it is to address the issues of inclusivity, and therefore protecting this constituency is a fundamental issue, and that we need to embrace. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I know the money going to counties, the 35%, the minimum 35% that has been spoken and that has been enshrined in this bill, Mr. Speaker. The truth be said, that some counties in these countries have felt alienated from the center, and therefore any additional resource to counties, Mr. Speaker, is a blessing, and therefore we must embrace this constitutional amendment, because then the issues of shared prosperity, as the country grows, we know that 35% is a minimum, it will continue to grow, and therefore each and every part of this country will feel the growth and the prosperity of our nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Malwa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, it's been a long journey. I want to quote the Chinese philosopher by the name Lao Tzu, who said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The journey to these reforms, Mr. Speaker, it started at the steps of Harambee House, between His Excellency the President and Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the Majority Leader and Honorable Muturi Kigano. When you read Article 1 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, pertaining matters of sovereignty, this is a political theory, Mr. Speaker, and our Constitution says the ultimate power belongs to the people. And when it comes to matters of amendment, Mr. Speaker, it is the people who have the powers. They can change whatever they want, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the whole process is outlined under Article 257 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, it goes without saying that much that Parliament, we are here, but we have no powers to amend. Mr. Speaker, this popular initiative, it started with the 4 million signatures, Mr. Speaker. To collect 4 million signatures is not an easy matter, Mr. Speaker. The second phase was the verification when it comes to the IBC. The IBC, in its wisdom, Mr. Speaker, they managed and they forwarded to the county assemblies. The county assemblies forwarded to the joint speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate. Mr. Speaker, we have no powers to amend this. This bill belongs to the people, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we are a conveyor belt leading to the way to the President. From the President, it goes to the IBC for referendum. I want to thank His Excellency the President, because the election panel is in place. And I have no doubt when the referendum comes, Mr. Speaker, that particular time, we will have IBC fully constituted. Mr. Speaker, there are many good things in this proposal. One, the cabinet ministers. This House, Mr. Speaker, we need to go back, if not the parliamentary system, Mr. Speaker, but to go to the hybrid system. The issue of question time, Mr. Speaker, is very important. We sit here today as the representative of the people. Many times we have challenges when it comes to question time, Mr. Speaker, because the cabinet secretaries, they do not sit on this floor of the House. And when you look at this proposal, Mr. Speaker, it says the cabinet secretaries under hybrid system, they'll be part and parcel of this floor. Mr. Speaker, it will add a lot of value as far as transparency and accountability is concerned. I beseech the honorable members who are here today that we should support this. Who knows, tomorrow, maybe you'll be a cabinet secretary. Mr. Speaker, as I move on, I want to quote the words of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, Mr. Speaker, said that all of us, we are on this stage, we are acting, but we'll eventually exit. When our time comes, we'll have to exit. But what legacy do we leave behind, Mr. Speaker? We've been told that we are looking for shared prosperity. We don't want to, Mr. Speaker, to preach water and to drink wine. Why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? Many appointments must reflect the face of Kenya. Everybody is a Kenyan, whether you're from Mount Kenya, whether you're from Endebess, whether you're from Turkana, or whether you're from Siaya. A lot has been going on, but this is the time we must reflect and see, truly, the shared prosperity. Is it being practiced, or we are preaching water and drinking wine, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, secondly, some of us who want to be governors, we appreciate the 35% increment, Mr. Speaker, going to the counties. Will add a lot of...
Order, Honorable Malwa. It is 1 p.m. That is not to say your time is gone. When in the next sitting, you'll have 12 minutes. And honorable members, we still continue with this debate in the afternoon, so more and more members will get an opportunity. Honorable members, the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 29th April 2021 at 2:30 p.m.